So I've been blessed to speak about Ramadan Legacy in London, in Dubai, in Malaysia, but never been blessed to speak about an Islamic app in a bar. So I think that's a first. I don't know what my parents are going to say when I go home. But my name is Shahbaz. I graduated from University of Glasgow. I'm not a coder. I've never studied tech in my life. I'm an accountant, so pretty much the opposite of being creative and codey and techie. So I then joined PwC, if you know them, after I graduated, and then now I work as a strategy consultant. I, along with an amazing team, launched this app called Ramadan Legacy last year in June. When I say the word Ramadan, what springs to mind? Just shout it out. Fasting. Intensity, no food, no water. And it's essentially, it's a sacred month. So our team went on a journey to how do you code a month that is sacred and historic. And that's quite a journey to undergo, and something which actually disrupted the kind of tech world in terms of spirituality and in terms of how different faiths actually embrace tech and use it to help them with their spiritual practice. Next slide. This is what the app looked like last year. I'll show you what the app looks like this year, but that was our sort of main promotional graphic. Next slide. And this is what the app actually done. So what it done is that it gave you an interactive planner in Ramadan. So in Ramadan, each day Muslims fast, and within each day there's certain key practices and worship that a Muslim must perform. So we made that very simple and very easy on the eye for individuals to understand around the world, whether they were from Scotland, London, Belgium, France, Venezuela. It was pretty much a languageless design which we adopted in order to create this app. It then had an actual, some sort of we called it a reflection stream, but it was a Twitter stream in the app so that different people who were fasting around the world could post their stories and their experiences of Ramadan. Next slide. This is the reason, I guess, why we're standing on the stage. This was our result. So we ended up with 150,000 users last year in Ramadan, which was about June 2015. We had a social media reach of over 1 million. We were featured by pretty much every tech and news organisation in the world, and over Muslims from over 90 countries had downloaded the app. So we essentially broke the barriers of sort of online segmentation. Next slide. This is the key demographic of our users as well, which is really interesting. The majority of our users are actually over in the Far East, so Malaysia, Indonesia. We've got 30,000 here in the UK, 20,000 split between North America and Canada, 10,000 Middle East. Well, you'd expect the Middle East to have a lot more users, but it's not. And the rest of the world is scattered. So I know we've got 900 users in Cuba, which is fantastic. So we can email them and reach out to them, and their stories are amazing. Next slide. So this is kind of our key features. So I travelled to the World Islamic Economic Forum in Kuala Lumpur, and we were featured as one of the trending Islamic startups in the world. And we were featured by Dubai, the government, as a sort of trending digital company. And recently I just done an interview with Management Today, which is a prominent business magazine down in London, and coined us as the next generation of Muslim entrepreneurs. So that was a fantastic feature for us as well. Next slide. So here's some of the kind of features or the places we were kind of profiled: The Guardian, Tech in Asia, The Mirror, we were TechCrunch as well, and sort of many other news organisations around the world, which really overwhelmed us because our team, to give you a picture, there's about 5 of us. We work in a spare room in one of our team members' homes. We pretty much have no office. We don't work anywhere. We have no assets. We're just a bunch of people that came together to solve a problem, a digital one, and really put together an amazing product. Next slide. This is what the app's going to look like this year. So it's relaunching again, and we really, so as a strategy consultant, I focus on brands, and we really focused on how do you brand an Islamic product and how do you brand it to Muslims, and that's actually more difficult than branding it to non-Muslims. So we hired an Indonesian graphic designer this year who really understands the nuances of contemporary Islamic design, so geometry, historic patterns, and just making it modern for the 21st century. Next slide. So this is some key slides for the app this year. Next slide. This is an overview of the entire app. So again, the planner, the profile board, the reflection stream, and the content stream as well. Next slide. Again, just more close-up screen. Just wanted to show that off to you guys. Next screen. Right. So this is I guess one of the reasons why we were invited on stage. So we had a budget of $5,000, and we ended up with 150,000 downloads. So when we say that to people, they're like, well, how did you manage to do that? And it was no easy task. We crowdfunded our app last year. We privately crowdfunded 10 grand before our crowdfunding campaign, and then we crowdfunded £7,000, and all we really needed was about 15 grand in order to launch this. So thankfully we managed to raise that sort of initial startup capital. And I mean, things really rocketed off when we launched the app last year. And I guess what I'm about to share with you is I think there's 7 secrets as to how we done it. So if you go on to the next slide. Alright, okay, this is one of a very cheesy tagline. You don't need money, you need savvy. So we were just very, very savvy on how do you actually market something, and how do you do it when you don't have any money. And to be honest, this is a key problem that most organisations face. So they create the product or they create the service, and then they either spend no money on marketing, or they spend money on marketing and the return on the investment is always very low. And that's because perhaps they only adopt the sort of traditional known methods of getting something out into the marketplace. So here are our 7 marketing hacks. First, choose a peak season. So I know the app's called Ramadan Legacy, and there would be no other time to launch it other than Ramadan. But if you have a product or a service or an app, choose a peak season. So autumn, spring, Christmas, Easter, the summer, the fall. Choose a time where individuals are engaged with what you are about to offer them. Next slide. Establish partnerships. So I think for SMEs and for startups, just sort of previously from experience in advising different governments that are actually trying to launch startups, especially in the Middle East and the Far East, is that there tends to be this core functionality of it's me and only me. And that's a mindset and an approach which needs to change. I think when you have an SME or you have a business, the only way that you're actually going to grow is through partnerships. So one of the things that we did is that we established a 2-tier partnership within Ramadan Legacy. There was a brand partner, and then there was a content partner. So our brand partners were featured alongside us. Wherever they go, we go. Wherever we go, they go. And that really helped in terms of our online TV. So we managed to get an advert on the TV on one of the most prominent sort of religious channels on Sky for 3 grand for the entire month. Now, I done consulting at STV, and I know how much the prices are for a TV advert over a month, and so we managed to get it at a much lower price just through partnerships. Other partnerships, we established partnerships with sort of non-Islamic organisations as well, so NGOs, public sector and private sector banks as well. This year, actually, just staying on the partnerships, is that we partnered with a humanitarian NGO, and we're going on an 11-city tour to showcase the app to 11 cities around the UK this year. And just through that partnership, just through being nice, working with someone else, it really is paying off. So when you do have a startup or an app or a business or an SME, don't fall in love with it. Share the love of what you have. Next slide. Focus on PR value. Now, there seems to be a huge hype on social media and social media advertising and Facebook ads and Twitter ads and all the rest of it. What I will say is when our article hit The Guardian, that generated 40,000 downloads within about 3 hours. 40,000 downloads out of a total 150 is, you're talking about almost like 33% of our total users came from one PR article. Now, how did we actually get a PR article in The Guardian? Through stalking them, to be honest. So what we done is that we created an Excel sheet. Excel is where everything begins, to be honest. And we had 200 news organisations on that Excel sheet. We had the names, we had the name of the person in charge of the relevant department within the organisation, and an email or a number, and we phoned all of them and we emailed all of them. And then when it came to the sort of the peak season when they're looking for content, they contacted us, done the interview and put the article on. It wasn't only the Guardian article, there was one in the Mirror as well, which was sort of, you kind of different. One thing that I would say is, in your PR strategy, target different newspapers that appeal to different audiences so that you get a wider sort of sphere of your users as well. Say that in this kind of light-hearted sense. And also in terms of the PR, prepare a press release and put it on your website, so as like a main home page, so that news organisations, when they Google you, they go onto your website, they see press release, they click it, they see it, copy and paste, and they put it in their article. That was given to me by the head of PR at Al Jazeera, that trick, so I'm sharing that trick with you. Next slide. Okay, pay Facebook pages. Now, the traditional approach is that you have a Facebook page and you put on ads and you pay for those ads, and you essentially pay money to boost your page and boost your posts, etc, etc, etc. We didn't do that. We actually paid other Facebook pages to promote our app, and really it's sort of a win-win situation. You're paying money for a Facebook page or an online kind of media account that has 500,000 likes or 1 million likes, that has traction already, that has way more traction than you will ever have in the next 3 years. So rather than paying for your own self to grow, you just pay other Facebook pages, ask them to share your post or your app or your link, wherever it may be, and you get a lot more traction. So there was one page, I can't say what it was, but there was one page that had 1 million likes, and in each post I think it got around 12 to 15,000 likes on each post. So we paid them a certain amount of money to post out the link, and I think that generated around 15,000 downloads. So it's a different way from social media advertising yourself, is to actually just pay. And they won't advertise that you can pay us and we'll advertise your product. You just need to reach out to them and ask them, to be honest. And again, if you establish partnerships with them, like we did as well with some I think we established a partnership with a Facebook page that has 12 million likes. And so through that, we also generated a lot of users as well. Next slide. Reroute the traffic. So I was here in December, I think, and there was a speech on by, I think, the CEO of We Are the Future and a few other guys as well. And then I sort of briefly spoke about how we managed to reroute online traffic. So what I'm saying is basically, we had 150,000 users, and on the iOS and the Android store, we were ranked at number 6 on the top 10 charts. So when you went onto the App Store and you went to the charts or whatever icon it is, we were at number 6. Now just above us was Tinder, right? So that was kind of my kind of funny joke that I used to say when I was speaking at different places, is that we almost beat Tinder just for that month. And also when you clicked on search, it was like one of the trending, it was number 1 at the start, then it was 3, then it was 5, then it was 6, because the Ramadan, the kind of month was coming towards an end. How did we manage to actually rank on the App Store? Now that's quite a significant thing. One of our advisors is a director at Cisco over in the Silicon Valley in California, and when this happened and he sent me an email, he was like, how did you manage to do that? We work with Apple and we don't know how to do that. What we done is that we rerouted online traffic. So what I'm essentially saying is that you market your product or service to key demographics where it would generate a buzz. Now you don't need to generate downloads, or you don't need to generate shares, you need to generate a buzz. So what we done is that our focus was actually to get UK and US users, sort of Western countries, in order to adopt the app. what we done is that we targeted Malaysia and Indonesia first in terms of our marketing phase and in the 4 phases of our marketing. Lots of people download the app because they're Muslim majority countries, so there's a natural affinity to download an app for this. So when they started downloading the app, it rocketed up in the charts through their analytics and the crawling, and just through online, the amount of downloads that were happening. When that happened, the UK user then sees, oh wow, there's this Ramadan app on search and it's number 1. This app must be amazing. So we rerouted the traffic from the Far East over to UK in the sort of middle part of the world, and then over to America as well. So it's all about rerouting traffic from one country to another country, so that when it ends up in the country that you want your users to be, it's already prominently placed and it looks like a premium brand. Next slide. Don't buy, trade. So again, we had around about 7. I think I put this because like we're like Asian, so we like, I think within the Asian culture or within our nature or of being from like Indian Pakistani subcontinent is that there's always been this aspect of trade. So even in the Middle East, when they used to trade with caravans and they used to trade with their camels and pots, there's always this theory of trading, not the exchange of money. So with only sort of 17 grand, we managed to produce a TV advert and we managed to have a lot of the things that would normally cost about 100 to 150k, and we done that with 15k, and we done that through trade. So for example, the videography company that we hired to produce our 30-second advert that went out on TV, we didn't pay for that production of that advert, which would normally cost about 5 to 10k. What we did do is that we developed an app for them. Because we used the resources and the intelligence that we had, and trust me, the only thing we had was intelligence, we didn't have anything else whatsoever. We used that as an asset to trade with other people, and so a lot of the things that should have cost us a lot of money, we managed to get for almost like 10% of the price. So that's another key thing. When you're a startup or an SME, don't buy. First thing, trade. And the last slide please, brand ambassadors. So this is something that we're cooking up this year, but something that we experimented last year as well. So we essentially created this sort of evangelist model within our marketing as well, whereby individuals could represent our brand in their particular geographic location. So for example, I think when Uber wasn't so prominent, there was Halo, which was another taxi ride sharing app, and they had partnered, I think it was either with Harrods or Selfridges, and they established this partnership so that when people come out from their shopping trip, they would jump into a Halo taxi and go forth. And they established that in different geographic locations around the world. And when that article hit, we saw the article, and then I think the theme that came up was this idea of brand ambassadorial partnerships. So again, what we did is that we launched this sort of brand ambassador initiative so that individuals around the world who liked our app, who liked what we were doing, could sign up to be a brand ambassador. When they sign up to be a brand ambassador, they get a free t-shirt. Everyone loves a free t-shirt. And they get sort of this startup pack as well, and they get to represent our brand in their geographic location with freedom. Right? And that's something which is actually quite empowering. So we empowered other people to carry our brand to their geographic location, which is something that's actually quite risky, but it's actually not that risky, because when you vet people through this brand ambassadorial process, you know who are the sort of right people to take your brand forward. And that was sort of, that really paid off. So for example, we've got a brand ambassador in Canada that managed to engage with local Canadian media organisations to get the app out there, and I think we eventually ended up with 12,000 users in Canada, so that was fantastic. I think that's the end of it. So we've actually just launched our 2016 crowdfunding campaign. There's a crowdfunding platform called LaunchGood, and it's actually a crowdfunding platform to launch social projects. So it's a fantastic platform that's based out in Detroit in the US. And we launched our crowdfunding legacy campaign on Monday. So it's a 20 grand target. I think we're currently sitting at 3.5 grand. We've still got a lot of sort of pledges and sort of different people saying that they would support it to come out. And that's pretty much it. just to explain the actual brand itself, so when you're branding something which is maybe not so conventional, like an app for Ramadan, the branding that you sort of see in the Islamic world, it tends to be quite awful, to be honest. It's not represented in a way that's actually quite appealing. So just to explain our brand, so what you'll see is our logo is, there's this sort of symbol there in the middle, and the symbol is actually an hourglass. So because we see Ramadan as a different time to the other months within the year. Out with that, there's this sort of circle to represent that time as eternal. But essentially, there's this aspect of the circle of life. Ramadan's based on when the sun rises and the moon sets, so you see this sort of idea of the circles rising and setting. And then this year, there's this external sort of time machine graphic that we've created as well, with different icons. And our graphics designer, I think, was supposed to be here, unfortunately couldn't make it. But yeah, we really focused on what the brand means and really making it appealing to sort of different audiences in different countries around the world. So that's our story. Thanks very much for listening, and do Q&A later. Yeah. Thank you.